Congressman Patrick Meehan and Democratic Congresswoman Speier. Both are members of this committee that is going to vote later today. Congressman Meehan, let me start with you. What do you think about the president's decision to assert executive privilege in this case?
Well, one of the questions becomes the extent to which that privilege would cover these materials. I'm not sure what the answer is on that at this point in time, but it is important to point out what Pete did. There was a representation made by the Justice Department, and then they did a 180 and they changed that representation. So they made a statement that was fundamentally incorrect to Congress, and now we're trying to ask why that was made. There's evidence as well of intimidation of individuals who were whistleblowers, who were very concerned about those representations made and brought information that contradicted the Justice Department representations. So there has been whistleblower intimidation on top of it, and this is a very, very sad moment, but that's the issue that really concerns me.
Congresswoman, is he right?
I think what is important to focus on is the fact that the Attorney General has already turned over 7,000 pages of documents, about 1,300 relating to this letter to Senator Grassley of February 4th, and a willingness to turn over all the documents, but couldn't do it by the start of business today. And so for all of the apparent willingness to work together, this is becoming a showdown at the OK Corral that should never be taking place. And frankly, it's becoming a bit of a circus when we have so many issues that we should be dealing with, focused on creating more jobs, using this committee to look at the VA system that is not responding to claims by veterans swiftly enough, the Medicare fraud issues that exist in the system. There's so many other issues we could be dealing with. We're not even dealing with Fast and Furious anymore. We all agree that that was a horrendous mistake that really started in George Bush administration, and I think we're losing sight of what's really important here.
Well, she does make a point, Congressman. This did start during the Bush administration. Given everything else that is going on, why is this being pursued? You know the perception on the Democratic side, and that is that this is basically a political witch hunt.
Well, I regret that we're here, and I wish we were working on jobs. But the fact of the matter is, the process of gun walking as an investigative tool was begun under an ATF division during a Bush administration, but the U.S. attorney from that administration denied that very prosecution based on those tactics. It was this administration, with evidence that it goes to the highest levels of the criminal division in the Justice Department, that went back and opened that up and encouraged the ATF to pursue this. So there's very clear violations of what is consistent with ATF policy being actually supported from the highest levels of the Justice Department. I mean, these are very serious issues, and the bottom line is we have an agent, Brian Terry, who is dead, who was led to bleed out in a desert, and people are asking questions, his family's asking questions, and they're going unanswered.
Congressman, that's the same argument that we have heard from Darrell Issa. It is, we have an obligation to find out how Fast and Furious got so messed up and why an agent was killed. Do you feel you have sufficient information to get to the bottom of this? Is there a legitimate reason for requesting this other information?
Well, first of all, if we're going to really try to get to the bottom of Fast and Furious, it's really important to bring former Attorney General Mukasey to hear from him, because he was in charge and was actually briefed on the issue. We should have the former head of the ATF, who is Mr. Melson, who said that he never sent this information up the chain of command, so to speak. So I think if we're really focused on Brian Terry and what went wrong, we've got to make sure that we do a post-mortem of the entire system. What we aren't doing with this contempt proceeding is focus on that. We're now talking about whether or not a legislative affairs office within the Department of Justice wrote a letter with the auspices of the Attorney General, or was it just information provided by the locals in Arizona? I mean, it's like saying I put out an email, my staff puts out an email that I didn't know about, and whether or not that was indeed the case. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the fundamental issues about Fast and Furious.
I want to thank both of you for taking the time. I know you have to go into the committee hearing, and that is going to get underway any minute now. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Let me